I just pressed the let's go live button. So let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain on this lovely, lovely Friday. It's Friday. I'm 99% sure we've got Leaf Blower Guy right around the corner. So he'll be probably making an appearance over here today and then over there today, which is great. It's Friday. It means that the stream is going to be hopefully alive and well, and the streets are going to be as clean as can be. Looking forward to it. But are we working? Is this connected? I think it is. Let's get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Govea. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about conspiracies and many attempts to conspire, to collude, to work together to remove certain bad actors from this government and from the operations. Here he is, Leaf Blower Guy. He's coming in right here. All right, right at the start of the show. It's like every time. It's like perfect. Love it. All right, so shout out to the Leaf Blower Guy. What are we talking about today? We've got a lot to get into. We've got several different segments. And the first one we're going to talk about is about Nancy Pelosi filming herself on January 6th. Now, we've already known all about this because we saw the footage that Nancy Pelosi released to the January 6th committee, which was showing the scene that was actually being recorded in that camcorder. You can see this is a clip from the new footage that we will review. But what's so funny about this is they actually had a handheld camcorder. All right, we already knew Nancy Pelosi was making a film out of this, you know, and walking together like powerful and all that. And this is her daughter filming her. But I thought this was all done spontaneously. I didn't realize she had a handheld camcorder in 2021. Literally like filming a documentary, as we're going to read about. So she's like, oh, no, weird. I just happen to have this camcorder here on the day of a very momentous insurrection. Weird. Walking around. So it's just amazing. And we'll go through all of that. The new footage is being reviewed by John Solomon, and Julie Kelly has her hands on another batch of it. But we talked about the original footage some time ago. If you remember these videos, we'll watch them again. It's such a total scam and a joke. But this is what Pelosi's daughter was actually recording as she was walking through right here, right? I mean, you can see the two frames side by side, and Pelosi's on the phone. And so we'll hear all about it, and we'll break that down again now that we can see what a joke this whole thing was. Nobody's even, look, they're just walking around, right? And being filmed. So we're going to take a look at the close-up of this. You can see this actually was a story from about 6 months ago. A friend of mine tipped me off on this and told me that this was already known, essentially, but we hadn't seen the CCTV footage on it. So we'll take a look at it. But this is all for a documentary, literally. Like they were filming a documentary on January 6th. Filming a documentary on January 6th, all right? We also are going to check in with Stephen Sund. He is the former Capitol Hill Police chief, and he wrote a very interesting book called Courage Under Fire. And I have a couple excerpts from this that I want to read for you from the end of the book, where he calls it an insurrection. And of course, he's, law enforcement, and he's somebody who was there, and I'm sure was not a pleasant day by any imagination. But he has some very excellent questions for us that open the door to a whole lot of other questions about this whole thing, stuff that has never been answered. And he showed up to explain the consequence of this entire deal with Nancy Pelosi. So we'll get into all of that in the first segment. Then we're going to turn our attention to the Hunter Biden images that got dropped on the internet. Now, we're not going to look at any of them because we have, I guess we just don't want to see them here. No, but there's ways that you can see them, of course, if you'd want to. It's all over the place. But we are going to talk about the story because our friend Garrett Zeigler, who is responsible for a lot of this investigation, showed up, had a great conversation with that one news company. We'll see what he had to say about this and what the plan is for these documents. And then there's a couple of other updates on the Hunter Biden stuff. NARA is withholding emails from FOIA requests. We have an update on that. Hunter Biden is now deposing John Paul Mac Isaac, the actual laptop repair owner, the guy who got his hands on the Hunter Biden laptop, is going to be being deposed by Hunter's people. And then we've got this very new interesting narrative that is being spread all over the internet these days and all over the media, saying that Hunter may not get charged. Okay, I think they're pre-framing this. They're pre-butting the criticism that's going to come when they decide not to charge Hunter. They're going to say, no, there's these new gun laws and all the gun advocates are responsible for these changes. And if, don't blame us, blame the Supreme Court, but we're not going to charge him because of the gun rights, right? I think they're setting it up for this. And I'm not kidding about it. It's hysterical. So we may not even get gun charges for Hunter. And I had a thought. I was thinking, is Hunter just like a store brand Jeffrey Epstein? He just kind of just escapes any liability. He has endless money. He's got all these deals. He's got all sorts of images with underage people and awful things. And so now he's just kind of like lower tier Epstein kind of a thing. And now he may not even be charged. And look at this typo. Gosh, I'm so embarrassed. All right, fix that. So that is what we'll talk about. We also are going to get a quick Trump update. Now, apparently they filed a motion to recuse Juan Merchan. You remember Juan Merchan is the judge who is leading the Alvin Bragg prosecution. He's the one who called Donald Trump into court to sit there and get lectured about following the various court orders. So Trump and his team have filed a motion to recuse the judge, and they're not even releasing the motion. I mean, this stuff is so irritating. One of the most important cases in this whole country right now, because it involves what may be the next president. And they're not even releasing the motion to the public so that we can read it. Instead, we're going to read the statement. All the media is trying to get their hands on it. It's really, really disgusting. Epoch Times, Politico, New York Times, everybody's emailing the court. Can we see this? We'd like to see what his lawyers say about you, judge. And they say, well, no, it's a complicated process. You can only see the motions in person, can't make copies of it, and all of this stuff. So they're trying to bury the story about Trump saying this judge is not appropriate to be on the case. So we'll go through that. We'll also have an update on the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Man, this case is getting interesting. So JP Morgan is now fighting back actually hard. The previous motions that we've read through here was the U.S. government from the Virgin Islands going after JP Morgan, right? They said, oh, no, you were transacting for Epstein, saying that Jamie Dimon and all of the people who were in charge over there at the bank were basically Epstein's bank. Okay, he was moving millions around to pay off people and to do his activities, and that the bank was complicit in it, right? And we read all of those. We're like, man, that's pretty bad from the bank. Well, guess what? The bank responded, and they said, oh, really? You want to come after us, U.S. government of Virgin Islands? Let's show you how embedded Epstein was with your government, saying that Epstein was paying off this official and going around the airport with young women, being waved through customs, and just basically had total free range with the U.S. government of the Virgin Islands. So the bank is punching back pretty aggressively, and there's a lot of redactions in this document, but it is amazing because I'm sure that is true. Everybody was covering up for this guy. He got one of the most insane plea deals that we've ever seen. So we'll go through all of that. And there's a lot of finger pointing taking place outside of JP Morgan, inside of JP Morgan. And then lastly, we'll do a quick update on what's happening with this 1023 document. There was breaking news this morning that the FBI is going to be relenting and bringing over a document over to Congress. Now, I don't know the details of this. It literally is breaking. Just the News has an update for us. Comer, I think, confirmed it over to Fox News as well. But it is something we'll check in on at the end of the program so we can see what the latest is out there in the news. And so, my friends, as you can see, it is a Friday. It's a beautiful early show. And so hopefully we've got some new people who can't usually join the nighttime show, jumping in and saying hello. And welcome to everybody on this Friday. It's been a short week, but it's been a busy week. We had Congress shove through another debt deal. So that means that our dollar will continue to lose its value. But in the meantime, we've got a lot of other things to talk about. And if you want to be a part of the show, my friends, the best way you can do that is by joining us over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have an amazing community there We do member-only streams. We'll be doing a Saturday show tomorrow. If you're a member, whether you join us on YouTube or join us on Locals, we very much appreciate it. It's a great way to support our work. It's a great way to connect with other people and grab access to the private Telegram group where the chat never ends. And before we get into all of this news, a lot of this news can be very draining on our bodies. You know, it's very, very low energy, very sapping, kind of stressful, which means we've got to be properly fortified. And to do that, we've got to be healthy and lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds that are still lingering around. You know what I mean? But how sick are you of all the ads for the weight loss pills and the fad diets? You know, we've all been there. We've all done that. And they don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Easy. You do that, the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, not a fan. And who's got time to prepare that every day? Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you will not find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof comes at your next checkup when your doctor says, wow, you've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com and save 15% off your very first order with code Robert. Very easy to do. They've got other things for sleep, for hair and skin, and it's a great place to get healthy at fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to save 15% with code Robert because the vegetables want to be eaten. That's why they come bursting out of the ground, full of nutrition and joy. And so now let's get into it today. New January 6th footage shows the other side of Nancy Pelosi's daughter's camera. We see here recently released after Kevin McCarthy and Marjorie Taylor Greene coordinated the release to two very competent journalists. One of them is named John Solomon. He published this over at Just the News. And you can see this still. This is Alexandra Pelosi. And we knew that there was a video recording from January 6th. We all watched it. We'll take a look at it again today. But we thought that this was an impromptu recording. We thought that this was something that just was spontaneous. Oh my gosh, we're under attack. Let's take a look and record what's happening for future posterity. That's not really exactly what happened. I mean, she had a camcorder in her hand. This is January 6, 2021. We all have cell phones, and most of them record in 4K. So that's something that you would have if this was impromptu. This is a camcorder. And her daughter is filming her this entire way. So it's part of a documentary, evidently. And this is now the other side of the footage that we get to see. And it certainly doesn't look like they're panicked at all. Doesn't look like they're under assault from a raging mob. Everybody's just kind of waltzing out of the room. We're going to get into it more. Here's the background on the story over from Just the News. And there were two people who I very much respect. John Solomon is one of them, and Julie Kelly is another, both excellent journalists and investigators. And they both got access to additional footage. They're combing through it right now in detail, and we can expect to see a lot of drops over the forthcoming months. Now, they published this. This is one of the first drops. It says, J6 unmasked. Security footage shows Pelosi evacuating Hollywood style from the Capitol as the daughter films. We're going to go through the footage in a bit more detail. But here, Pelosi described having to evacuate, right? These were her words, as traumatic, okay? These people are dramatic. They've told us this was an attack and AOC has PTSD and everybody is just totally destroyed as a result of what the Trumpers did. But Capitol Police security footage obtained by Just the News shows the longtime Democrat leader exited Hollywood style from the House of Congress that fateful day as her daughter was filming her, as security officers tried to guide her through a secret safe passage corridor, right? So they're kind of interfering with the security. The footage made available by Just the News provides 3 different angles of Pelosi's evacuation the afternoon of January 6th. Each one of the angles shows Alexandra, Pelosi's daughter, roving around her mother's delegation with a camera. And not just a cell phone camera, a camcorder. I'm surprised they didn't have a CNN crew there. as they moved briskly through the corridors, led by members of the Capitol Police Protective Detail. The video shows then Speaker Pelosi was not in jeopardy, clearly, after fleeing the breached Capitol chamber because the footage shows no protesters or rioters penetrated the evacuation route. Capitol Police confirmed to Congress the woman holding the camera was, in fact, Alexandra. Now, we are going to hear from Stephen Sund, the former Capitol Hill chief of police, and how he viewed this ordeal. But let's take a look at the previously released footage. So now that we know that she had a camcorder and this whole thing was being filmed and basically set up for a documentary, we have to go back to what they were recording and view it in context. This is what they released as part of the January 6th Select Committee. This horrendous, definitely not scripted, definitely not overinflated, exaggerated recount. This is what she's recording, backing up. We have to finish the proceedings, or else they're going to have a complete victory. The country's on the line. All right, so this is all the splicing, right? So they splice this in. This is like remember that the J6 committee was basically a propaganda piece. They brought in some Hollywood producer to splice this all together. So then they say Senator Schumer's here.
A secure location, and they're locked down in the Senate.
They're locked down here in a secure location.
We can maintain the sense that people have.
Yeah.
That there's some security or some confidence.
Okay, so we're going to come back to this. Stephen Sund has a lot of questions for Nancy Pelosi. Remember, she was Speaker of the House at the time, and we've got concerns about why security was requested and why security was denied. And she's going to be sitting here telling us, well, how can we say the government functions? One of the ways you could have done that was to prevent all of this from happening and from stopping people like Stephen Sund from fortifying the building, knowing that there were going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people there in Washington that day.
That government can function and that we can elect the President of the United States. Did we go back into session?
We did go back into session.
Alexandra's is here filming.
Everybody on the floor is putting on tear gas masks to prepare for a breach.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get more information.
They're putting on their
tear gas.
Tear gas? Oh, gosh. Can you believe this? You believe this? We're under attack.
We need an area force.
We're under attack, she says. Right, so they fast forward. They're going to give us a lot more of the theatrics because they like jump cuts in these footage. So they're showing us what's going on in other timelines, in other parts. I don't even know where they are, but they're trying to show you that. I guess, are these people right here, right outside their door or something? Like, are they pounding on the door? Are they look pretty comfortable to me. I mean, personally, Nancy's just kind of chilling here. They got their masks on, which is a good approach. Well, she's got hers up below her chin, which is illegal back then.
Effing Secretary of DOD. We have some senators who are still in their hideaways. They need massive personnel now. Can you get the Maryland National Guard? Okay,
this is called chewing the scenery, right? This is when in Hollywood, when you have actors who are overacting and they're getting around, they're getting in front of the camera, they're talking to the acting Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller. It's just, very dramatic, very theatrical. And Pelosi, put your mask on.
To come to.
I have something to say, Mr. Secretary. I'm going to call the mayor of Washington, D.C.
Okay, you don't have to yell.
Now and see what other outreach
everybody can hear you.
Police departments instead of
people who put their phones on speakers. They put their phones on speakers and they start screaming. The phone's right there. You don't have to change your volume. Okay, the microphone didn't get quieter or something. It's right there.
Hi, Governor. This is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Governor, I don't know if you have been approached about the Virginia National Guard. Mr. Hoyer was speaking to Governor Hogan, but I still think you probably need the okay of the federal government in order to come into another jurisdiction.
The okay of the federal government? Do you mean like when Donald Trump suggested bringing the National Guard in and Mayor Muriel Bowser and your Sergeant at Arms and others declined any federal support? You mean like that? We have the letter from Mayor Muriel Bowser that she sent on January 5th that says the same.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. They're just breaking
They're breaking windows. Wow, they're doing all yeah.
It's really that they said somebody was shot. It's just.
Yeah, the Capitol Police shot Ashley Babbitt. Yeah.
was just horrendous, and all at the instigation.
Here you go.
of
And who's responsible
the
for it?
President of the United States.
Donald Trump. You got to make sure you get that line in. If you're going to have, you know, a scripted insurrection, you got to make sure you appropriately blame the person responsible.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate what you're doing, and if you don't mind, I'd like to stay in touch. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Virginia Guard has been called in.
Virginia Guard,
You're
yeah,
not
great.
just talking to Governor Northam. And what he said is they sent 200 state police and a unit of the National Guard.
Wow.
They're breaking windows and going in, obviously ransacking our offices and all the rest of that. That's nothing. The concern we have about personal harm, personal safety is, it just transcends everything. But the fact
Personal safety transcends everything. And Nancy still doesn't have her mask on. Schumer doesn't want to be near her, as you can see. I think his mask got a little bit tighter. In fact, it's so tight, it's pulling on the upper right earlobe, as you can see. It's not the lobe, it's actually the top part of the ear. He's like, all right, I need to tense this up. I don't know what is going on. Might be an odor problem or something.
fact is, on any given day, they're breaking the law in many different ways. And quite frankly, much of it at the instigation of
There it
the
is again.
President of
There's the line
United
again.
States. And now,
Trump did this. Just so we're clear. We all agree, right? You all agree with me? Trump did this. Did Trump do this? Yep, Trump did it. Yep, okay, Trump did it. Did you get it on camera? No, I didn't get it. Say it again. All right, hold on. Let me get on the phone again.
Yeah, why don't you get the president to tell them to leave the Capitol, Mr. Attorney General, in your law enforcement responsibility? A public statement, they should all leave.
All right, so they're chewing the scenery. We get some other, right, they flash forward. Now we get Mitch McConnell's back here. He's got his mask on too.
Not be just we're waiting for so-and-so. We need them there now, whoever you got.
You have,
Okay.
you also have troops, this is Steny Hoyer, troops.
Okay, so we have a little
Fort
bit of time
McNair,
to make that decision.
Andrews Air Force Base,
All right,
other military bases.
Thank you.
We
Thanks,
need
Paul. Bye.
active duty National Guard.
How soon in the future can you have the place evacuated, pulled, cleaned out?
I don't want to speak for the leadership that's going to be responsible for executing the operation, so I'm not going to say that because they're on the ground and they're the
on Justice Kent,
Pretty amazing. This is our leadership. Everybody just stands around, you know.
just pretend for a moment it was the Pentagon or the White House or some other entity that was under siege.
Here Nancy Pelosi is explaining it like she's 5. Okay, let me help you think through this. What happened if your building was under attack? Okay, what would you do for that? Now it's not your building, it's our building. This is our government.
And let me say, you can logistically get people there as you make the plan.
All right, so you can see it's just a big drama fest. Now here's another phone call when she's talking to Mike Pence.
Mitch about it earlier. He's not in the room right now, but he was with us earlier and said, we want to expedite this, and hopefully they could confine it to just one complaint, Arizona. And then
hello.
we could vote, and that would be, then just move forward with the rest of the state. The overriding wish is to do it at the Capitol. What we are being told very directly is it's going to take days for the Capitol to be okay again. We've gotten a
Going to take days? That's a pretty bad report. They were back there that night and counted the votes.
very bad report about the condition of the House floor with defecation and all that kind of
Defecation,
thing
yeah.
as well. I don't think that that's hard to clean up, but I do think it is.
No, you guys are used to that. You have Jerry Nadler. He's been waddling around Congress with a leaky diaper for 20 years.
More from a security standpoint of making sure that everybody is out of the building, and how long will that take? I just got off with the Vice President.
I got off with the Vice President-elect, so I'm telling you.
Okay, but what we left the
I talked to Pence.
conversation
I
with-
talked to Kamala. All right, so you get the deal, right? It's just a big wine fest, and they're all on camera. It's like a drama club, right? It's a bunch of people with very little capability to do much of anything, pretending like this is all Trump's fault and it's all under attack, even though, as we know, they declined support many, many times over. So that was the other side of Alexandra's footage. Now this is the other side where they are actually in the Capitol. And it's interesting how much of this has been redacted, right? We can't even see the walls. They have blurred out the walls. They've blurred out the top of this hallway. They've blurred out this left wall. But we can see that all of that horror, all of that, we're under attack type of feeling, this is what it looked like as they were actually exiting. So a couple people walking through. Looks like down underground, secret hallways, secret tunnels, probably why they don't want us to show anything. There is Nancy, and there is the daughter. There's Alexandra right there with the handheld camcorder, filming her the whole way. Right? The whole thing was like great footage, like wow. And then they turn a corner. She's filming her from behind. She says, hold on, everybody, hold on. Now, here, I think we can see some people trying to escort Nancy out, right? Like this is a security person, it looks like, who's trying to get her out of the building safely. These are, Secret Service or Capitol Police or law enforcement who are just trying to get her out safely. And so Alexandra is kind of, interfering with this process, it looks like, as they're walking around. So we get a different angle. Now they're walking through the doors. Okay, the Speaker of the House is coming through. They're all just kind of moseying about. All right. Not a ton of urgency anywhere. And there she is, front and center, watching mom. Just watching mom, just filming the whole thing. This is going to be great. Can't wait to make a documentary about this. And they had a camcorder. It's not your cell phone. This isn't a spontaneous, just grab whatever you have because this wasn't expected. And then we get another angle as they continue to walk through the halls. Here it is again. And here comes Alexandra. Boom. Just filming mom. Look at this. It's hysterical. It's like, wow, this is going to be great footage. It's like Blair Witch Project. It's a little bit bumpy, but it's real, mom. It's authentic. You look great. You look very heroic. And they were walking around the Capitol. This was the urgent moment, right? Now, the media, they took that one clip that they fakely edited from Josh Hawley, and they played that for us many times over on repeat, right in the face. Oh, look at Josh Hawley running around. Oh. And Josh Hawley was running because he was scared. He said it wasn't a big deal, but there he is just running through the congressional Capitol. Well, they didn't show us this one. They didn't show us this one of Nancy Pelosi just waltzing out with her daughter filming her. Oh, gosh, I can't wait to give this to CNN. Horrified from this very monstrous attack. And Nancy Pelosi has said stuff like, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this, that I knew this day was going to come. And I don't know if that was in this clip.
But I do think I had the impression.
We'll hear through official channels, Paul Irving, your sergeant and all.
Yeah, there was another clip where there was a conversation with Nancy Pelosi where she said, I've been waiting for this. I knew something like this was going to happen. But it turns out this was all part of a documentary, evidently. Reddit got their hands on this some time ago, posted 6 months ago. Apparently, Nancy Pelosi in the documentary is going to be directed by her daughter and put on HBO. Okay. So not only were they filming it, but they were actually filming this for a documentary, and you can see exactly what it looks like. Here's the camera. Director Alexandra Pelosi was following her mother when she was escorted out of Congress. CNN broke the footage, was on the other side, saw Nancy Pelosi threaten to punch out former Trump as a result of his actions. It's now emerged that the documentary was making will launch on HBO. It's called Pelosi in the House, I guess. Maybe it's already launched. I don't know. But what a joke it is. All of the horror, the media didn't play this clip over and over and over again for us. They played the ones that they wanted to show us. And as Nancy Pelosi literally walked out as her daughter is vlogging her. Start a YouTube channel so we can downvote it. Anyways, this is the Capitol Hill Chief of Police, Stephen Sund. And he was on with John Solomon, whose agency now has the very important job of combing through all of this footage. And his reaction, he was former Capitol Police Chief. He was there on January 6th. He was involved in a lot of the post investigation. And here's what he said about that footage.
People say, well, why don't the officers that are under protective deals say turn off the camera? The answer is they can't, right? They have to follow the orders of the speaker, unlike other police people who might have been able to say, turn off those cameras, you're a safety risk. Tell us what you've seen in that video footage and what concerns you, what went right, what went wrong in that footage.
Well, when you look at the footage, what you need to realize is a protective detail is specifically for the protectee. You're there, you're protecting the protectee. Now, Capitol Police statutorily do have the authority to protect family members. And it's my understanding the person holding the camera was Pelosi's daughter. But they're there in the position of being media. The protective detail isn't there to protect media. Whoever else was there with her for the sole purpose of videotaping creates a major distraction for the protective detail. You know, they don't train to protect those additional people. There's a limited number of seats in the armored vehicles that, you know, if you're going to put one of those additional people into the armored personnel carrier or the armored vehicle, you're going to lose one of your security detail. And that's not what's meant to happen. So it creates a distraction. It slows down the process. You can see as she's walking through the hallway, she's more concerned on videotaping. When I say she, I think it's Alexandra Pelosi.
Yeah, she's not
is more
worried
concerned
about
on videotaping as opposed to rapidly getting out of the Capitol for her and her mother's safety.
Exactly right. Yeah, none of them were scared. None of them were freaked out. None of them thought they were under attack in any way, shape, or form. It's all on footage. Everything that they told us was for effect, to exaggerate the story, because that's what they do. They need to use this as an ordeal to get rid of their political opponents. Here we have an excerpt from Stephen Sun's book called Courage Under Fire: Under Siege and Outnumbered on January 6th. Now, this is an excellent book, and there's a lot in it that I don't agree with, but there's a lot in it that I do agree with. And if you read it, he does call January 6th an insurrection. He says that there were absolutely people in there, in the crowd, who wanted to interfere with the government and stop the counting of the votes and all of those things. And I think that is true. I think that there was a natural, organic component to that did want to stop the count and get in there and protest. And I do think that there was also another contingent that was hell-bent on causing absolute violence and madness to turn this into what it is today. All of that said, Stephen Sun writes the following in his book. He says, now that January 6th is behind us, and he writes this at the end, and he had previously called it an insurrection and all the things, but now that January 6th is behind us, he says, many questions remain. 1. Why didn't a single one of the intelligence agencies accurately report the intelligence that they possessed? Good question. Not a single one. Why didn't the Department of Defense share its concerns over violence? Why didn't they share it while simultaneously taking such extraordinary actions to prevent military support from assisting me during the attack? Why did the DOD hide evidence on concerns of violence? And why, when Stephen Sun requested information and support, why did the military decline? I don't know. Maybe Mark Milley had something to do with it. The same guy who called Nancy Pelosi afterwards talked about the 25th Amendment. Sund asks, why didn't the sergeants at arms, the people in charge of the House and the Senate of their security, why didn't congressional leadership, and why did the military, why did the sergeant, the military, and leadership all seem to obsess, his words, about optics above everything else? Why? Why did they want optics? Why was that such a big, important deal? Why, after I had taken steps to secure the Capitol in advance of and on January 6th, was I removed so quickly? Stephen Sun secures the Capitol. He takes steps to try to secure it before January 6th, and they remove him. He wants to know why. Why, says Stephen, are congressional inquiries so studiously not focusing on what really went wrong? Well, we know. And finally, what would the death toll have been if I had not pre-positioned Metro PD by the Capitol and been so quick to call in all the other law enforcement support? Maybe they wanted this to be much, much worse, but this dude stopped it from happening. As tragic as the death toll already was, I could still wake up in cold sweats thinking about how much worse it could have been. He says, America needs to know the answers to these questions. What I faced as the chief of police at Capitol Hill, stuck in the middle of a terrible attack that played out in front of the whole world, he says, is only one part of the puzzle. While on the surface, this battle looked like an ugly mob of violent protesters pitted against police officers, January 6th was something much bigger and representative of greater issues in America. It looked like an ugly mob of violent protesters pitted against the police, but it was much bigger. And we all know that. It was, in fact, much bigger. And what they tell us it was is not true at all. And there are thousands of people who are being prosecuted and abused by our government on the back of this, not for justice, but only for the furtherance of their political narratives. And it's disgusting. So shout out to everybody who's working on this, including John Solomon, Stephen Sund, Julie Kelly, all the amazing people bringing the truth to light. Of course, we will continue to cover this. All right. And now we are going to turn our attention over to our next story, which is about old Hunty. 10,000 plus Hunty images show up on the internet, which is just awful. But we're not going to look at them. There's no need to. They are out there and percolating about. But we are going to talk about the consequence, the implications of these documents, and what the future holds for Hunter Biden. We have other stories that say that NARA, the National Archives, the head librarians, are withholding emails to protect Hunter from FOIA requests, and Hunter is going on the offense. He is now deposing the man who actually turned over his laptop. You remember him? John Paul Mac Isaac is apparently being deposed by Hunter's lawyers as the Department of Justice and the Biden administration and the media prepare to cover up for Hunter as soon as there is a declination decision. As soon as prosecutors say, well, we're not going to charge him, then they're going to have a justification for it, and they are pre-butting the response as we speak. So we're going to get into all of it. Now, the first article comes over from some news company, I think. Yeah, they tell us nearly 10,000 photos from Hunter Biden's laptop hit the web. And we know where they came from. Our friend Garrett Zeigler, who has been on this channel doing great work at Marco Polo USA.org. And he is the author of the Hunter Biden laptop report. And now what they've done is they've synthesized that report down. They've extracted all of the media and they've assembled it online. Here's the background. A trove of photos, which we're going to spare ourselves on this, all right, has been made available to the public through a new website that was launched. It's called BidenLaptopMedia.com. It's going to house almost 10,000 photos spanning from 2008 to 2019. It took months to complete, according to Garrett Zeigler. He had a conversation with Fox News Digital. He told him the following. He said, it's taken us a couple of months to go through the photos, about 10,000 of them, and redact the genitalia on the photos. A lot of Hunty genitals out there. Yeah, that's why we're definitely not looking at them. Said one of the contents was once owned by the Sun. He says, the number one thing we're about is truth and transparency. Zeigler said, if the American people want to know what their first family is like, well, they're going to get it. And we're not going to be taking out photos that paint the Bidens in a good light. We're not going to be taking out photos that paint the Bidens in a good light. Okay, so you get everything. You get the bad stuff and you get the good stuff. And if you want to see it and you're curious, you're free to see it and take a look. And they have a lot of damning things in there. Now, Zeigler also noted that several photos that contained private information were redacted, including things like social security numbers, credit card numbers, and other things. Additionally, multiple photos of Hallie Biden that were nude, the widow of Hunty, were also redacted. Of the many photos found on the laptop, Zeigler provided Fox News Digital with two never-before-seen photos. One photo showed Hunty cozied up to his then-lover, Zoe Kestan, in 2018. The other image, featuring an array of drugs and a condom wrapper sitting on a table, was from a text message conversation that Hunter had with Hallie, the widow of Beau Biden and the former lover of Hunter. Providing further insight on the type of content viewers can expect, Zeigler said some content that does not carry any news value will not be featured. He said, well, for example, there are screenshots of Candy Crush games where we are fairly confident in saying there's absolutely no news value to those. Hunter's racking up the high scores when he's high on crack on Candy Crush. He's just crushing candy, like, getting high scores. So it's going to be, I would say, that 98% of the photos on the device, around 10,000, although it could be slightly less than that. It's going to be completely authentic recounting on the photos. Zeigler promised that there won't be any genitalia visible on the site. Whew, that's good. He insisted that the photo project, which will display the images chronologically, covers a large swath of the first family's life and includes an array of photos. He also made clear that it's not a hit job against the Biden family. He said there's a picture of a letter that Hunter's daughter, Finnegan, wrote to, I assume, troops stationed overseas. He says it's an adorable letter. Finnegan's around 9 years old at the time, and it definitely paints the Bidens in a good light. He said, we're not Republican activists, Zeigler. He says, none of us are even registered Republicans. In fact, I loved and still love Trump precisely because he isn't a standard Republican. So, no, this is not a hit job. We're going to keep all photos that paint the Biden in a good light and keep all the photos that paint Biden's in a bad light, and the American people can judge for themselves what they think about the first family through this. Yeah, and, the CIA was involved in trying to cover this up. The entire media was involved in trying to cover this up. If they would have come out and just said, look, those are private photos, leave us alone. Okay, it's from a different era. He was a drug addict, whatever. You don't need to see it. We acknowledge they're real, but they're inappropriate. Then maybe this wouldn't even be newsworthy. But the fact is, they said that we were all nuts and that this was all Russian propaganda. So now we get to talk about it, and now you can look at it and see for yourself if it is really Russian propaganda and those CIA officials were true or not, or if they're just giant liars. So that might be a good reason to just go see. I mean, apparently these people who run our intelligence agencies are so stupid that they can't figure it out. We were looking at the emails and corroborating with Vice President Biden's trips and the news reports that say Hunter went with him that matched the emails that showed that Hunter was engaging in conversations that didn't seem appropriate for him in the context of traveling with the VP. So it was all corroborated, but the intelligence people apparently have no intelligence, or they're just partisan hacks. So people can look and decide for themselves. Describing the effort as the most thorough expose of any American first family while they're in office in history, Zeigler said the photos that will be shared typically only become available once the archives are open. He said the photo viewing app, you can view the metadata there. You can see where the photo was taken, what time it was taken, if he's got latitude, longitude coordinates attached to it. You're going to see the metadata like apertures and lighting. And their servers were under extremely heavy stress yesterday. It says our servers are under heavy load. We're working as hard as we can to get it fully functional and secured. Incredible engagement already in the first couple hours. Zeigler noted that the videos will be also made available at a later date. Oh, no. So describing why it's going to take longer for the videos, he said, well, we got to use AI tools to assist in censoring portions of the video because there's so much pornography. Man, how did the Russians create all of this fake propaganda? Did they have access to an advanced AI that created all of these deepfakes? Weird. Strange. The White House and Hunter's attorney did not respond to Fox News Digital for a comment. So amazing story there. Now, that is going to have implications as more and more people learn about it. It's, not everybody wants to take a look at these images, and some people might have disagreements about the images being shared at all. But the point is, they, in my opinion, opened the door by denying it. They said, no, it's all fake. You guys are crazy. Well, if you deny it, then you get to impeach that denial. You get to respond to that denial and show the truth. Say, no, it isn't Russian disinformation. It's all legitimate. And so now it is absolutely fair game, even more so than it already was. And let's not mince words here. If Donald Trump's sons, any one of them, got so much as a speeding ticket, or had a bad outing with a waitress at a restaurant or something, it would be all over the media. But they covered this up because they know how disgusting it is. Many of them, it probably reminds them of themselves. And so they covered up for their team, and the rest of America had to suffer as a result. But the cover-up is not over. They're continuing to do this. We've already seen what the DOJ is doing, what the FBI is doing. Now the National Archives is doing the same thing. America First sent in a Freedom of Information Act request. They said, we wanted emails from Hunter and Joe Biden, and we want to know what they were involved in. And so here they tell us that America First Legal is going to be releasing its fourth tranche of emails from their request from records from when Joe Biden was VP. But according to the National Archives, when they sent in this request, this tranche consists of emails that came from December 2009 to June 2010, all involving Rosemont Seneca, which was one of Hunter Biden's shell companies. The National Archives initially proposed withholding. They said, well, we'll give you some, but not 142 emails. And we're also going to redact 54 emails in part. Why? Presidential Records Act. But then, guess what happened? They turned around this request. They brought it up to this guy, former vice president's representative called Robert Lenhard. He weighed in, and the original number went up. Okay, so they were going to withhold 142 emails. Instead, they withheld 148 emails. So they check with VP Dad, and he says, those 6 emails, I also want those gone as well. These new emails continue to reveal how the Bidens shared influence and access to the Obama White House with their family and friends. They've got the emails for us. We can see some of them here. In one example, we have an email from Biden's former deputy chief of staff in the Senate, somebody named Dennis Toner. As reported by The Nation, Toner was the leading promoter of a Delaware board of trade. He sold the company to another company called Ideonomics. That was a project of Bruno Wu, who had an investment with Shanghai Harvest Fund Management, the H in BHR Partners. So you see all the layers here? This is why this story is going to be hard to follow. Many layers before it ever gets to anybody. The New York Times reported that BHR Partners was the investment firm that Hunter co-founded, backed by CCP investors. So Toner promotes Board of Trade, sells Board of Trade to Ideonomics. That company is run by Bruno. Bruno also has another investment partnership with Shanghai Harvest, of which partnered with Hunter's company. So we've got, if we diagram this out, we've got kind of a big spread here, but we can see the connections. This kind of looks like a W a little bit. The National Archives redacted the email because it would disclose confidential advice between the president and his advisors or between such advisors. So here we go. This one was withheld in full. Dennis Toner, his personal email address. He says, are you in your office? Totally redacted. Another one. This one is an email from Eric Sherwin copying Hunter Biden. This record is a withdrawal sheet. Releasability withheld in full. This is from the National Archives. 2 days before Joe Biden and Jill Biden departed from Egypt, their White House staff brainstormed with Hunter to, quote, talk about Africa. Isn't that weird? So this email was released. This one came in from Alan Hoffman to Hunter Biden, to H. Biden at Rosemont Seneca. Hunter says over to him, will you give me a call when you get a minute to talk about Africa? Just in general. Hunter needs some talking points. Says, are you available in 30 minutes? Alan Hoffman responds to Hunter and says, always available for you. Can you believe that? Who talks like that? Alan Hoffman? I mean, you talk like that to your wife, right? Or something. Always available for you, Hunty. Whatever you need, Hunty Poo. You're the VP's son. Your daddy's very powerful. Always available for you. This is out of the Executive Office of the President. Office of the Vice President. Always available for you. Give me a break. So, right, that's how they talk. And then here, they wanted more information about And he's going to talk about Africa, whatever Hunter needs to know about Africa, even though he's with Rosemont Seneca. More emails. Withheld in full. This one withheld in full. They tell us that Hunter had influence over the VP's official correspondent. Hunter used his access to his father to pressure the office of the vice president's staff to write a letter. Larry Raskey, who was mentioned, ran communication for Biden back in his 1988-2008 campaigns for president when he was a plagiarized. Anne Marie Pearson, also at Rosemont Seneca Partners, which was Hunter Biden's firm, was able to influence her brother Fran, who was hired by VP Biden's team. Rick Vitale is a longtime Biden campaign supporter. It's unclear what the letter's purpose was, as the link is broken. All of this, look at all these redactions. Can the VP write a letter to Sam Vitale? Sam is the brother of Rick Vitale, who is one of Larry Raskey's close friends in Boston. The VP knows Rick well. Hunter says, can you ask your brother to get JRP to send a note? See below. Hi, Hunter. Hope all is well. Redacted, redacted, redacted. On that note, is it possible for the VP to call, to send him a note, etc.? Redacted, redacted. That would be really redacted. This redacted, redacted, redacted. Thanks. Be well. And then this site, the daily item of Flynn articles. We don't know what that text was. So the list goes on and on, right? Hunter has been manipulating his daddy like a puppet, and everybody just bends over backwards for the guy. Like store brand, dollar store Jeffrey Epstein. He is the lower brand product, and everybody is covering for him. FBI, DOJ, now the National Archives. But Hunter is going on the offense a little bit more these days, and apparently he is even deposing John Paul Mac Isaac, the Delaware computer repair store owner. The deposition is the latest move by Hunty and new members of his team to fight more aggressively against conservatives. Oh, gosh. His previously legal team did not respond to a lot of Republican attacks, but his new lawyer, called Abe Lowell, came in recently and is countersuing a bunch of people, including Mac Isaac. Mac Isaac sued Hunter for defamation. He claimed that Hunter dropped the laptop off in April 2019, got high, and never picked it up. Claimed the laptop came his property after 90 days because he signed a form that say you forfeit it. Hunter and his lawyers never confirmed that they left the laptop behind. But now they're expanding their efforts, and Hunter's legal team says that it intends to seek depositions of others in this case, including Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon, and others, which is amazing. I mean, I think this is a strange strategy, but I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what else we can get out about this. Now, there's another thing happening that's also very strange. You're going to see more about this. As the DOJ, as the FBI, as the Biden White House, as NARA, as everybody continues to cover up for Hunter, you're going to see these stories about the president's son being under investigation for potentially breaking gun laws, right? Nothing on the laptop. It was really about the fact that he signed a form when he purchased a gun that said, I don't do drugs. Clearly he does drugs. And that the signing of the form when he's got evidence that he's got crack pipes and crack cocaine that would put anybody else in prison on scales with his prostitutes while he's purchasing guns is not appropriate. That means he lied on the form, which is a violation of federal law, right? Maybe, except now gun owners are responsible for Hunter not being charged or something. Listen to this. Hunter Biden can soon find himself in a surprising position at the cutting edge of the fight to strengthen the Second Amendment. What? Hunter Biden is now a Second Amendment advocate now? What? The president's son is the target, okay, of a Justice Department investigation scrutinizing a purchase of a gun from 2018. A time when he said he was regularly using crack cocaine, which for many people are sitting in prison right now for using crack cocaine, but as a result of Joe Biden's criminal justice reform laws. But his son is not. Federal law bans drug users from owning guns. But the constitutionality of the law, like many other provisions restricting gun ownership, is now in question because of a precedent-rocking decision the Supreme Court handed down years ago. Okay, so you see what this is going to look like? They're not going to prosecute Hunter, and they're going to blame it on the Supreme Court. His lawyers have already told the Justice Department officials that if their client is charged with a gun crime, they're going to challenge the law under the Second Amendment, which is a great strategy. So they're going to try to drive a wedge in conservatives. They're going to say, oh, you want Hunter to be prosecuted? Well, if you did, then it would impinge upon your gun rights. And you're like, oh, well, now what am I supposed to do? According to a person familiar with private discussions, that could turn a case that is already fraught with political consequences into a high-profile showdown over the right to bear arms. Because they don't want to talk about Hunter. They'd rather make this about a gun case. The dispute would come as the White House fights to tighten the laws. Federal prosecutors are expected to finalize this investigation soon. David Weiss investigating. Attorney General Merrick Garland said that he's capable. This is not a special prosecutor, David Weiss. This is somebody under the purview of the DOJ who reports to Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland reports to Biden. So somebody that is in direct chain of control of the executive branch is investigating the president's son. And they don't say it's a conflict of interest because Donald Trump appointed David Weiss. So somehow that justifies this conflict. When he bought the gun, Biden filled out a form, but in his book, he said, I was smoking crack every 15 minutes. It's a lot of crack. A lot of people are in prison for a lot less than that. A lawyer for Hunty declined to comment on this, but you can see they are becoming more and more aggressive because I think they know he's pretty much immune from anything. What's anybody going to do to him? They're going to stonewall this and delay so that statute of limitations expires, so that it becomes moot, irrelevant, or witnesses expire or evidence expires. And Hunter is so confident that he's protected by NARA, by the DOJ, by the FBI, by everybody in the Biden administration, that he just wants to go on the offense. In fact, now he's going to go after John, Paul, Mac, Isaac, and others while the cover-up continues. Of course, we will continue to cover this. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next Hunter story. And we're moving on, and we've got a couple of additional, this one I think will be a shorter segment because, these people just haven't released anything. Donald Trump is filing a new motion to recuse Judge Juan Merchan. This is out of the New York prosecution being brought by Alvin Bragg. And Donald Trump has tried to remove this case to federal court. We covered that motion. Alvin Bragg is trying to bring this case back down to New York court at the state level so they can keep possession of the prosecution. And we now have Trump saying the judge who is residing at the state level is not appropriate. Totally conflicted based on prior cases, based on his political donations that he has made to Democratic causes and Trump's opponents, and because of the activity of his family and his daughters and all sorts of other things that show it's unlikely that this judge can be fair and impartial. Now, to add some complexity to this, we don't even have the formal motion that was submitted because the judge and the courtroom are not releasing it. They're saying you have to go and review this stuff in person if you would like to see it. And so we have some background from the Epoch Times. They say that Trump's lawyers seek a recusal of the judge in the New York case. And this photo was from New York when Donald Trump had to turn himself in for the arraignment at the outset of the case. But they say that Trump issued a statement, which we will read through in full. They're referring to the document that is going to try to replace Judge Juan Merchan. We'll read through the statement, but I was curious as to why we don't have the official filing. And the Epoch Times dug into this. They said that they called the court. I want to read this thing. I mean, if they're saying this judge is biased and not legitimate, can't not be impartial, I would like to see the motion. But Trump has some gag orders. I mean, they're not officially gag orders, but he's got some discovery limitations, and all of this stuff is taking place under the dark of night in seal. Why can't we see it? Epoch Time calls, and they speak to court spokesman named Lucian Chalfin, working for the court, told the Epoch Times in an email that criminal filings in Manhattan may only be viewed in person and not online. And As this is a pending matter before Judge Mercan, it would be inappropriate to comment further. Nobody can get the document. Now, Epoch Times is attempting to obtain the motion, which the Trump campaign says will outline the judge's conduct in a previous case. Trump spokesman said he pushed the former Trump Organization CFO, Alan Weisselberg, to cooperate against Trump and against the president. Mercan made also political contributions and other donations. And they've also been involved in the Michael Cohen case and others. And so this is talking about the removal into federal court. But Donald Trump released the statement on his website, even though we have not been able to see the motion yet. Here is what Trump and his people put out. They said the following, that President Trump, like all Americans, is entitled under the Constitution to an impartial judge and a fair legal process. This motion lays out Judge Mercan's significant conflicts. The judge's daughter stands to significantly financially benefit from a decision her father may make because of her direct efforts with Joe Biden's campaign. And we remember that I think she did some work for Kamala. The motion also chronicles Judge Mercan's conduct in a previous case when he pushed former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg to cooperate against Trump and the corporation and Trump personally. Judge Mercan also apparently made political contributions to Joe Biden and other causes to, quote, stop Republicans. They say this case has no factual or legal merit, having been brought by a district attorney who ran on a platform of get Trump. An impartial judge is vital to stop this travesty of justice. And so we were expecting this. We were waiting for, well, this and a whole slew of other filings in this case. But there are things that have to happen first. And if the case is going to be removed to federal court, then we're going to be filing the substantive motions in federal court. And so we're looking for certain motions to dismiss, motions to challenge the probable cause or even the grand jury. There's all sorts of things that we could be seeing, but we're not right now because we're getting through the preliminary stuff, and a motion to recuse is something you file immediately because you don't want the judge to be ruling on other more substantive motions. You got to get the judge out first before you then file your more substantive motions. And as we've already talked about, this judge has made donations to political causes that directly oppose Trump, and he knows it. Now, the New York Times has a little bit more for us. They say that lawyers for Trump are trying to remove this man. You see the photograph of him here. And part of the issue with this is that this judge is going to be the person who rules on it. Trump has already sought to move the case to federal court, but now he wants this judge recused. Trump has denied all of these accusations. And Trump's lawyers, Susan Nicholas and Todd Blanche, they said in a statement that Trump, like all Americans, is entitled under the Constitution to an impartial judge and legal process. But their motion faces an uphill climb. The decision rests in the hands of the judge, who also presided over the unrelated tax fraud trial last year of Trump's company. The company sought Judge Mercan to recuse himself in that case, but he declined to step aside. So in other words, this judge is probably not going to go anywhere. The company was convicted, and Judge Mercan ordered a $1.6 million fine. They cited his actions in that case. They say, Judge, you've already been biased and prejudiced against us. You encouraged Trump's former CFO to cooperate against the president. You said that on the record. Now, we still have not seen the motion because even the New York Times can't get it. Justice Mercan's daughter, they noted, is a partner and chief operating officer of Authentic Campaigns, which works for the Democrats. And Authentic Campaigns worked for Biden in 2020. So they stand to benefit from this. If Trump is prosecuted and Trump is running against Kamala and Joe, then his indictment, his prosecution, his conviction is going to be well worth it for them. Under New York State rules on judicial conduct, a judge should disqualify himself or herself in a case if a relative within a 6th degree had an interest that would be substantially affected by the proceeding. Daughter's close. Ms. Mercan's work on Democratic campaigns does not give her enough of an interest to qualify, according to experts. Of course not. Yeah, because this isn't a political thing, right? So the fact that the judge's daughter works for the Democrats, or had worked for the Democrats, has nothing to do with this case. I'm wondering if she's working for them now. Maybe we should know that. Is she working with any Democrats who would have an opposition to Trump being reelected? Because that seems like it would qualify to me. What if this were the other way around? What if some judge in which Hunter or Joe were being prosecuted, what if that judge's daughter from Texas had worked for Trump's campaign and a Texas prosecutor was prosecuting Hunter or Joe specifically, which may happen at some point soon. We'll see. But in their statement, Mr. Trump's lawyers also seized on modest personal documents that he made. Judge Juan Mercan donated $15 to Act Blue in Democrats, earmarked for Joe Biden Jr. The judge is making donos. It doesn't matter that it's $15. That says more than anything. This is just a spite dono. He's not actually going to be changing anything with that. If you really want to cause a massive change, right, you donate thousands of dollars to really do something. This is just spite. He's reading through some story and I'm just going to go give him $10 so that I can make a mark as a small donor. He also gave $10 to each of the 2 other Democratic groups, one called Stop Republicans. And what's so funny about this is now his courtroom is in a very, very nice position to, in fact, stop Republicans by throwing a case against the former president, somebody against whom he's already made financial contributions. Judge Mercan has been under the protection of armed court officers since a grand jury voted to indict Trump on the 30th. The lawyers plan to file the motion for recusal later this week, and they're going to talk about redactions before they release it. A spokeswoman for Bragg's office said prosecutors would review the motion and respond in papers. Mercan declined to comment through a spokesman, but they call the attack on Mercan's objectivity vintage Trump. Give me a break. As I said, what happens if this whole thing is reversed? The judge literally donated to stop him. So challenging his objectivity is in evidence. What if this judge made donations to Trump? How about that? What if Judge Juan Mercan made 2 donos over to Trump, over to MAGA? How about that? You think they would say that this means the judge would be impartial? No, not at all. They'd be screaming like they scream. Trump has argued that Bragg brought the case as part of a politically motivated witch hunt. They deny that, even though they ran for office on his prosecution. So we'll see what the ultimate motion looks like, and we're going to continue to follow to see what the judge does. Will he recuse himself? Probably not. He'll say that, no, I can be totally fair and impartial. That was a prior election. And by the way, this case doesn't involve elections. It involves the falsification of business records from a prior election. He hasn't recused himself yet. I doubt he's going to. Probably thrilled he has this case, along with his daughter. Gives him a nice opportunity to do something that they think is saving America as the prosecution of Trump continues. Now, let's turn our attention over to this story, because we've got an Epstein update. Before we take a look at what's going on over at the FBI, because James Comer apparently is succeeding in getting the FD 1023 document. And so let's get these stories queued up. And in the House, JP Morgan strikes back. Let me do that again. JP Morgan strikes back, saying that the U.S. government was a lot more involved with Jeffrey Epstein than they let on. We're going to take a look at this new filing that came out from the bank. pointing the fingers in a very aggressive motion that does have some nice redactions in there, saying that officials on the Virgin Islands were working with Epstein to facilitate what he was doing. And the bank is saying, look, you're blaming us for being his financial bank, for helping him move millions of dollars around and transact in his schemes. But what were you doing, government? You were more involved than we are. And so the finger pointing starts, and it is very interesting to see the U.S. government be put on their heels by a major, major bank. But before we get into that, the AP had new details surrounding Epstein's alleged death. Here's what they write. They got documents, and they say that Epstein's last days included talk of calling his dead mom and a letter to an abusive doctor. Here's the update. They tell us that 2 weeks before ending his life, if you believe that for a minute, Epstein sat in the corner of his Manhattan jail cell with his hands over his ears, desperate to muffle the sound of a toilet that wouldn't stop running. Epstein was agitated, unable to sleep. Jail officials observed in records newly obtained by the Associated Press following things. They said Epstein called himself a coward, complained that he was struggling to adapt to life behind bars after his arrest. The disgraced financier was under psychological observation at the time for a suicide attempt just days earlier that left his neck bruised and scraped. So there was an attempt, they say. Yet even after a 31-hour stint on suicide watch, Epstein insisted he wasn't suicidal, telling the jail psychologist that he had a wonderful life and would be crazy to end it. But later, Epstein was dead, August 10th, 2019. Here are some documents. You see here it says, Friday, August 9th, inmate departs. Inmate Epstein arrives in the attorney conference. He's visited by attorneys. Inmate Epstein departs the attorney's office and returns. He's provided a social call. Epstein's in good spirits. Nothing unusual happening here. Saturday, August 10th. Uh-oh. This is the date before. So Friday, August 9th, we have check-ins. Inmate Reyes Efren goes to court. He left the cell. Epstein has an attorney conference in the morning. He leaves the attorney conference at 6:45, 7 p.m. He has a social call. He's in good spirits. That's the day before. Day of the incident, 6:33 a.m. Somebody's name is activated by the SHU. Staff found Epstein unresponsive in his cell. Staff reported to the bedside of an inmate and attempted to wake him. Control announced medical emergency, CPR initiated, bright and early. Medical staff on duty, CPR already in progress as staff arrives. Skipper Scott was notified. EMS arrived 6:45, so just over 10 minutes later. Inmate Epstein is intubated, given 3 rounds of epinephrine, IV access started, IO initiated, no pulse found, no shock advised. Inmate prepared for transport to local hospital. Institution placed on modified operations at 7 a.m. 7:10 EMS departs over to the hospital called Beekman. 7:19 USMS notified. Others notified. More people show up at the institution. PIO notified of the incident by the warden. 7:36 ER physician reports Epstein is dead. Official time of death. FBI is notified 8:34. Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office notified 9 a.m. Somebody named C. Edge arrives at the institution. What? He's dead? They get over there. Then we get Judge Berman's notified. Next of kin, brother was notified. Press release goes out 11:12 a.m. on Saturday. Crisis support team is activated. FBI gets there at 12:19. They arrive at the special housing unit, 1:35. Crisis support team is debriefed. FBI's there till about 3:45. They depart back to New York. Sunday, they resume normal operations. Another agent arrives, and others depart. Monday, FBI's back on scene. Tuesday, we've got North regional directors are there. And then the rest of this is about the investigation. FBI conducts their investigation, and it continues on. So now, nearly 4 years later, the AP has obtained more than 4,000 pages of documents. They include detailed psychological reconstructions, as well as his health history, reports, emails, and memos. They give us a summary. They say, taken together, the stories, the documents that the AP obtained on Thursday provide the most complete accounting to date of his detention and death. The records help to dispel the many conspiracy theories surrounding his suicide, underscoring how fundamental failings at Bureau of Prisons, like staffing shortages, contributed to his death. Yeah, like the cameras were off, the security guard like fell asleep, the whole thing. It's like a scene out of a Netflix series. Now, they shed new light on the muddled response. In one email, a prosecutor involved in the criminal case complained about the lack of information in the critical hours after the death. One prosecutor says, wrote, it was frankly unbelievable that the agency was issuing public press releases before telling us basic information so we can relay it to his attorneys who can relay it to his family. So they wanted him dead. They wanted the media to know he was dead before they even processed it. In another email, high-ranking Bureau of Prisons officials made a spurious suggestion to the agency's director that news reporters must have been paying jail employees for information because they were reporting the details of the agency's failings. Here's Suicide Watch log, July 23, 2019. It says, document your observations. Inmate was brought down to the suicide cell. Inmates lying on bed. Inmates sitting on bed talking. So this is somebody monitoring Epstein every 15 minutes. 1:45, brought down. 1:45 a.m., lying on bed. 2 a.m., sitting on bed. 2:15, redacted. 2:30, inmate sitting on bed trying to remember what happened after what happened at 2:15, which was redacted. We don't know. 2:45, sitting on bed. 3, sitting on bed. 3:15, Lieutenant so-and-so takes pictures. And then he's just sitting at the bed, which is, I guess, what you do, from 3:30 all the way to 4:15, talks to somebody at the door, 4:30, and then he's no longer on suicide watch, 7 a.m. He's standing at the door, and somebody stopped monitoring him, I guess. Provided a fresh window into Epstein's behavior. He also sent a letter to Nassar, who was convicted of abusing athletes on the soccer team. He finds a buddy who also abuses young girls. He's like, hey, how's your cell? What's going on over there? The night before Epstein's death, he excused himself from a meeting with his lawyers to make a telephone call to his family. According to a memo from a unit manager, Epstein told a jail employee that he was calling his mother, who'd been dead for 15 years at that point. Yeah, and they blame his death on seriously reduced staffing levels, improper or lack of training, and follow-up and oversight. So, new details on that. And we'll continue to see if we learn more about who his clients were and who was responsible for enabling him for all of the many years. But something else is happening now because the bank, JP Morgan Chase, is now being blamed for being the financial institution that helped Epstein do his misdeeds, moving millions of dollars around, providing donos. You know, he was flying people all over the place on private jets. He had tons of money. Nobody really knew where it came from. But the government from the Virgin Islands has sued JP Morgan Chase and said, you were managing his money. You were enabling all of this. But something interesting has happened. JP Morgan is not sitting back and just taking it. No, they're responding. And they submitted this back against the U.S. government. This is JP Morgan Chase's opposition to the government's attempt to strike their defenses. So JP Morgan said, we have defenses. The government says, no, you don't. They're responding saying, yes, we do. And we're going to take a look at the language in here, which is very interesting. Here's their preliminary statement. They say that plaintiff government, which is suing JP Morgan, the government of the Virgin Islands, of the United States, they say is complicit in the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. The U.S. Virgin Islands government is complicit in the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. They say Epstein could have lived anywhere in the world, but he chose you, the Virgin Islands. Discovery obtained in this case reveals why. For 2 decades, Epstein maintained quid pro quo relationships with the U.S. Virgin Islands' highest ranking officials. He gave them money, advice, influence, and favors. And in exchange, the officials shielded and even rewarded him, granting him more than some amount of millions in tax incentives. We don't know what that is. Looks like double digits. And they also gave him this redacted. Looking the other way when he walked through the U.S. Virgin Islands airports, accompanied by girls and young women, and even this something, 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 something disgusting. And also they let him do this disgusting thing, and this disgusting thing over here, and this disgusting thing on this sentence. For 2 decades, and for long after JP Morgan Chase exited Epstein as a client, they said, we can't work with you anymore. The entity that most directly failed to protect public safety and most actively facilitated and benefited Epstein's activity, the criminal activity, was the government of the Virgin Islands itself, not us. Though the U.S. Virgin Islands government hopes to shroud itself in various exemptions, it is a plaintiff in a civil litigation like any other. You can sue us and we're going to make our claims right back at you. Tellingly, the Virgin Islands motion seeks to strike only those specific defenses that threaten to expose its relationship with Epstein. So JP says, we've got affirmative defenses, which is that basically you guys were doing the things that you're claiming we're doing, and they're trying to strike those defenses. They say that's very convenient. The only things that you say we can't defend ourselves on are when we are implicating you as being more responsible than we are. Chase says the law affords defendants equitable defenses to protect them against precisely this sort of one-sided presentation of the evidence, and so deny their motion. They say that discovery in this case has been ongoing, but has established at least the following details. In 2009, upon his release from prison for procuring a minor, Epstein sought to arrange for his supervision of his parole to be transferred to the Virgin Islands. He registered with the Virgin Islands as an offender and maintained his primary residence there. They put him under Virgin Island law enforcement under their direct jurisdiction and supervision. The decades-long quid pro quo between Epstein and the Virgin Island U.S. government took 3 forms. First, high-ranking U.S. Virgin Islands officials spent years courting and gladly accepting Epstein's influence in the form of gifts, favors, political donations. The U.S. Virgin Islands granted Epstein, secondly, preferential treatment in the form of more than blank millions or million in tax incentives, among other benefits. And third, most troublingly, the U.S. Virgin Islands protected Epstein, fostering the perfect conditions for Epstein's criminal conduct to continue undetected. Rather than stop him, they helped him. More details. They say he originally courted these officials with gifts, money, and favors, and all of them gladly accepted. He did this in 3 ways. He gave money to the government itself. In February 2017, he wrote to the First Lady, Cecil de Jong, referencing her husband, the governor. He said, the Virgin Island government is desperate for cash. Does John know of any asset that might have I can use as collateral, islands, etc.? The amount to be collateralized was $50 million. The First Lady replied, said, I'll get a list of the government properties. Okay, so Epstein is saying, I'll give you a loan of $50 million. Yeah, and Drifter is right about this. This could say billion. This could say billion. That could be a B there. That could be a B, huh? It could be a B. Woo! That's a good call on that one, Drifter. Yeah, you're right. Says, as this continues, So this one was for 50 million. So the amount to be collateralized was 50 million. I'll give you a $50 million loan in exchange for property. Epstein and the first lady is like, let me see what I've got available for you. Let me check our Zillow account. What do we have here? Well, Epstein also gave money to the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Planning. He directed a $25,000 check to be cut from his company. Not only did they take the money, but they actively facilitated his apparent preference to donate to a school library for schools. If you prefer to donate to school libraries, I can connect you with a commissioner for education. Helping Epstein's money go to local schools. Perfect. He had also given apparently $25,000 to the Home for Girls in St. Croix. Dropped another $25,000 there. Epstein, who was jailed for soliciting girls as young as 14, gave gifts to school pupils and financed events for young children, facilitated by the U.S. Virgin Islands. He also worked with now current U.S. Governor Albert Bryan, facilitating donations to schools and little leagues. $50,000 for that. $30,000 goes to the Virgin Islands Little League. He also transferred payments, among others, to this thing and to this thing. Epstein made these payments to this despite knowing they risked provoking suspicion. In 2012, he wrote to the First Lady about funding a training program. Said, I'd like to support these things. But in the past, it was looked upon with suspicion. She responds, what do you mean, like suspicion locally? My thought was that this would be okay because it's specifically homicide training. To avoid leaving a written record, he responds, he says, face to face. Epstein also gave money directly to politicians. He supported, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, you know her, who successfully ran to be a delegate to Congress. She's the so-called journalist one. So-called journalist, Epstein personally gave the maximum amount to Plaskett's campaigns over multiple election cycles. He asked that his contributions be kept secret. He directed others to contribute as well. He says, we would have a friend in Stacey. Wow. Does Stacey Plaskett know about this? That she got singled out here? Wow. Stacey Plaskett. That's this woman right here. American politician, commentator, non-voting delegate from the Virgin Islands. And we've seen her in many hearings. She's very aggressive, and she says things to Matt Taibbi like, oh, you so-called journalists, stuff like that. So apparently a big friend of Epstein. Isn't that fun? Third, Epstein also funneled money via his business entities, went to U.S. Virgin Island Governor Kenneth Mapp, Celestino White, also wished to see Epstein, asking Epstein from which entity he wanted to donate to. $15,000 donos, $10,000 donos, $25,000 private gift to all of these politicians. Primary bankroller, the person who he would work through, was First Lady de Jong. She drove donations from Epstein to support her husband and his allies. A lot of money. Somebody else got $200,000. She got $200,000 from Epstein. Epstein paid her child's tuition. The children of the sitting governor, de Jong, including when he was the sitting U.S. Virgin Islands governor, he paid for their tuition. And he also offered to fund Governor de Jong's defense in the governor's criminal case. Says, I'll play any role in this you guys like. I can lend John the money, so he immediately has it. I would be gladly to be on the phone anonymous with the prosecutor offering suggestions. $25 a year for 20 years. Income tax now, so on. He's going to be moving the money around. They say, lest there be no doubt, Epstein's goal was to gain influence. First Lady de Jong explicitly advised Epstein on how to buy control of the political class. She told him, give wide, but give nominal support, then strongly support the winner of the primary. They explored paying monthly retainers to politicians to ensure their loyalty and access. Can we just give him like a monthly $5,000, $10,000 and just buy them? He basically owned the whole island, is what it sounds like. They considered putting Celestino White on some sort of monthly retainer. And they paid returns on this stuff. All this money went back. And then we start to see some major redactions. And the rest of this we'll fast forward through. But absolutely insane. Let's see what they're asking for in conclusion. Yeah. So for the foregoing reasons, they say this court should deny the Virgin Islands motion and strike their affirmative defenses submitted by Felicia Ellsworth, lawyers for JP Morgan Chase. And what an absolutely disgusting situation where Epstein was so involved with the government that he was literally talking about paying them monthly retainers to buy off the politicians. Unbelievable. Now, apparently there is also some finger pointing going on inside of JP Morgan. So now the executives are blaming each other over keeping Epstein. Depositions are happening, and current officials are blaming one another for allowing convicted trafficker Epstein to remain a client. CEO Jamie Dimon said in a deposition last week that the bank's general counsel, Stephen Cutler, was ultimately responsible for deciding whether to retain Epstein's accounts. They were worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But according to other material, Cutler, in his own deposition, said that two executives who led JP Morgan's division, Jess Staley and Mary Erdowas, were responsible for removing Epstein. And Erdowas, in her deposition in March, said the bank retained Epstein because Staley vouched for him. All right. So everybody's pointing fingers at each other. Everybody was involved in this. They all know what was going on. The banks did. The executives did. The media did. People like Reid Hoffman did. U.S. Virgin Islands did. Stacey Plaskett did. First Lady of the Virgin Islands did. But they all covered it up. Why? They all allowed it to happen. And Epstein had already pled guilty. And they continued to collaborate with him. And now they all are saying mea culpa. So the finger pointing will continue as all of these monsters try to save their own skin. And of course, the lawsuit will continue forward. I got to tell you, though, I do like the fact that they're not holding back. The bank should be calling out the government because the government is as complicit as the bank was. And as they continue to fight with each other, we are the beneficiaries. We get to see this nefarious finally exposed on display. And of course, we will continue to cover it. All right, my friends. Now, we've got one final segment. And this is going to be short because I think it was pretty much breaking as we started today. Let's see if we have anything else that is new on this before we jump into it. Doesn't look like we have anything exactly new.
With conclusion.
Yeah, it's just hitting. All right, let's see if there's anything. Let's see if there's anything over from the Oversight Committee. Because Comer doesn't have anything for us. All right. Well, here is the latest. Here's what we have on this. The FBI apparently is caving and bringing over the FD 1023 form to Congress. James Comer is going to be happy about this. Just the News confirmed this, and Fox News is also reporting the same. They tell us that James Comer wins. The FBI relents, agrees to deliver the subpoenaed memo that implicates the Biden crime family. They tell us that facing potential contempt of Congress, FBI Director Wray has relented and agreed to bring the subpoenaed document from the Biden crime family investigation over to Capitol Hill on Monday for the Oversight Committee to see it. James Comer announced the following on Friday. The document contains uncorroborated allegations that an informant provided the FBI in June 2020, alleging that Joe Biden, when he was vice president, engaged in a bribery scheme to change U.S. policy in exchange for $5 million. Congress was alerted about the document. We know that Wray was really dragging his feet on this. He said, "My sources and methods. I can't give this to you guys. It's going to implicate everything that we do over here." But now it sounds like what's going to be happening is he's going to bring the document over to Congress. In a statement to Just the News, the FBI said it wanted to accommodate Congress while protecting sensitive information. They said Director Wray offered to provide the committee's chairman an opportunity to review the information responsive to the subpoena in a secure manner. And we've demonstrated that we're working hard to make this available. The Bureau also cautioned, and we read through a lot of this stuff, the letter yesterday. So it's very, very breaking. Not much details on it about what Comer got. Fox News is also reporting the same. Again, not much more here, but let's see what they say.
FBI Director Christopher Wray will now send a document claiming President Biden was involved in a bribery scheme to Capitol Hill. That comes after Oversight Committee Chair James Comer threatened to hold the FBI in contempt of Congress. Lawmakers from both parties are expected to review the material on Monday. The document supposedly details a $5 million criminal plot involving Biden during his vice presidency and a foreign national. One thing on the subpoena issue. So when the Republicans took over and the majority in January, one of the things they said is, if we take over, we will be able to get the Biden administration, at least the cabinet, to be able to comply with congressional oversight. And that's what you're seeing here. Nobody wants to be held in contempt of Congress, so that's why Wray is making this decision.
Chuck Grassley was.
We talked about Chuck Grassley yesterday, and we have a little bit more from Wendell Hosibo, who tells us the following. Says that the FBI will allow James Comer to inspect a file on Monday that allegedly links Joe Biden to the $5 million bribery scheme. Says the FBI gave in after pressure mounted of being held in contempt of Congress. Chairman Comer will receive a briefing from the FBI and review the document on Monday. My question is, are we going to see a copy of it? Chairman Comer has been clear anything short of producing the form is not in compliance with the subpoena. So it sounds like he might just bring it over there, show it to him, and bring it back. The unclassified record contains pages of details that need to be investigated further by oversight. Comer will continue moving forward with contempt of Congress charges against the FBI per CNN. So that's not stopping yet. That's good news. Until that document is in hand, until this is situated and settled, James Comer should continue forward with his contempt proceedings because the FBI is absolutely out of control. And they are now in a position where Congress is focused on them, demanding oversight, issuing subpoenas, and drafting legislation to hold them in contempt, which means they're starting to understand there is a new game in town and they're playing ball a little bit. We'll start to see what they have. And of course, we will continue to cover. Thank you, my friends, for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. But okay, everybody, that is it for us on this lovely Friday. We covered some good segments today. Got some updates on the FBI. We'll see more on that one, kind of a short story. Epstein, insanity, the U.S. government, Virgin Islands, highly involved. Apparently, they were all owned by him. Trump filing a motion to recuse in the New York Alvin Bragg prosecution. Thousands of images from Hunter Biden's laptop been posted online, and NARA continues to protect him. And of course, we had January 6th new footage released from Just the News and our friend John Solomon showing that Nancy Pelosi's daughter filmed her with a camcorder, a handheld video recorder, to prepare for a documentary on January 6th as they fled in fear from the MAGA insurrection. Ah. But now, my friends, let's hear from you. It's a lovely, lovely Friday, and I appreciate everybody joining us on this early show on the day. Want to thank everybody who is sending in these great contributions. Jackie Carrion gifted our member called Carrie into our amazing community. And if you're a new member who's joining us, make sure you grab the Telegram chat because we're going to go over there for our after party. We also want to say hello to Wolfgang Deo, who says economic terror has occurred. No doubt about that. We had this one come in from Wolfgang. He just says, one more super chat. Thank you, Wolfgang. I appreciate that one. Rocky Water sent this one. It says, rock on, happy Friday. A tip in advance of anticipation of another great show. I may not be able to catch the whole show. Work gets in the way sometimes. Well, we're glad that you can join us when you join us, Rocky Water. Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for the nice tip. Hopefully you're having a very beautiful, very amazing Friday. Who else is here? We had another one come in from Jackie Carrion. Says, thank you, Jackie. Jackie gave a gift over to Sir Don Tripp, was gifted a membership. Welcome to Sir Don Tripp in the house. We appreciate you being here and sending that super chat in. Zulu's here. Says, we the people would like a Marjorie Taylor Greene gift in order to more effectively express our feelings. Thank you for your consideration. Okay. So we had, I'm going to do that this weekend. So let me just write this down. So we need to get, all gift requests are going to be worked on this weekend. So I thought we had a Byron Donalds. I think we wanted a Byron. I think there was a Tucker request at one point. There's a Marjorie Taylor Greene request. All right, who else? What else do we want for gifts in the chat? Any other suggestions? I'm going to work on them this weekend. And the more members we get, the more gifts we get, I think. And I think we have plenty. So we'll get the MTG gift in the house. Thank you, Zulu. Good suggestion. Makina Realty Maui, which sounds like a great realtor if you need something in Maui, which sounds pretty great now that I'm thinking about it. Says Dr. Govea. Well, I appreciate that too. Yeah, giving me the doctor title. I like it. Love your commentary over J6 tapes and the rest today. Well, thank you, Makina Realty Maui. I appreciate you saying that. Doctor? Is that because of my JD? I'll take it. I do have a Juris Doctorate. From Makina Realty. Good to see you. And Zulu bought some membos for us, invited some new members into the house. Thank you, Zulu. Who's coming in here? Lenny Malley, Helium Hub is in the house. High Plains Drifter, welcome. And Scarlet Court also is coming in. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Zulu, for inviting 5 new members. Members, we're going to do a member-only Saturday show tomorrow and hit some of the Saturday headlines. Anything else that percolates out there today? Oh, a leaf blower guy GIF. Jigum's like button. Jigum's like button is a good one. Yeah, the like GIF is a good one. Leaf blower guy. I'll look into leaf blower guy. That's a good one too. Jim Jordan. I don't know how many I have. Yeah, I don't know how many slots I have, but it might be time to revise them. It might be time to revise, update, refresh the GIFs. Spotlight beer GIF. Do we have a Spotlight beer GIF? No. So on YouTube you can use animated GIFs in the chat. Don't think you have that functionality on Locals. So I can add animated GIFs into the chat on YouTube. Yeah, we got Joe Rogan. Just Cause just dropped Joe Rogan in there. That one is a good one. But sometimes we could be due up for a refresh, so I appreciate that. STFU says, never let a crisis go to waste, right? That's right. Never do. You got to take advantage of them. Jerry Crouch says, Rob, a JD is a professional doctorate, so even though it is not common practice, an attorney is technically eligible to use the doctor honorific title. That's a really nice thing. Maybe I should be doctor lawyer. I'm not going to do that, but I appreciate it. I like it that it's a possibility, but I do appreciate it. It's pretty funny. That came in from STFU. John McGarvey says, boy, I hope he doesn't movie night those ideas. Oh, gosh, yeah. We've been promising movie night for Locals for a long time, and it's still going to come eventually. I just don't know when. It'll come, I'm sure. We're going to keep holding our breaths on that one, John. Oh, no. Okay, so, no, we're going to work on it. I wrote them down, and I can actually accomplish these. These are tasks that I can accomplish. Dolphin Fan is in the house. says, thank you for the live chat. It makes so banned YouTubers can chat. Oh, wait, no, Dolphin Fan brought in 5 new membos. Guess who is coming in courtesy of our friend? Dolphin Fan is the man in the house. Our friends Carol, welcome Carol. We've got Michael S., Cyprian C., Christine H., and that girl. Shout out to everybody who's coming in, which is going to be fun. Make sure you guys grab the Telegram link because we still have our after party to attend to here after the show is over. Also, shout out to Marco K. Welcome, Marco. Marco's a new supporter on YouTube, which is awesome, which means you'll join us, hopefully, for our member-only morning stream tomorrow, the Saturday show. We appreciate you joining us. And I think that is about it for us. Let's say hello to our friends on Twitter. Were we on Twitter? Somebody said that Twitter may have been a problem. Are we streaming on Twitter right now? Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. There's 3 people watching us. It's out of control. We had a couple comments. One from our friend Deplorable Fred. He says, Stacey Plaskett's biggest donor was Epstein. I don't know she definitely got a lot of money from him, no doubt. Said that they were friends. Taz is here, says, I like the way you explain things, Robert. Wit and wisdom. Well, thank you, Taz. And exposing it all says you do a fantastic job, Robert. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for the nice compliments. Thanks for saying hello on Twitter and for following us over there. Twitter is another great place to connect with people. You can like their comments, follow along. A gif of Hunter blowing his art. Oh, that would be a good one. Hunter one could be interesting. Soul Warrior, Salty Armies over on Rumble. Soul Warrior vibe, Blue Bunnies in the house. Good to see you guys. And so that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to leave it there. Members will be back in the morning on our Saturday show, and we are looking forward to seeing you there. And if you'd like to join us for our extra content, we normally do morning streams, which we're not going to do today because we did the show this morning. But we normally do member-only morning streams, and then we do Saturday shows. And so it's a great way to connect with other people, support the show, get some extra content, and have some fun. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And the member streams are a little bit, more private, a little quiet, a little more exclusive. So we'd love to have you here. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Also, don't forget, if you're joining us on YouTube, to grab the Telegram link, which is in the community section on the app. Also, get your field of greens, my friends. It's time. It's summertime, which means we've got to tighten up a little bit and get out. It's pool season, So go to fieldofgreens.com. Get your field of greens. It's real organic superfood. The vegetables want to be eaten. You'll be bursting with green energy. You won't even be able to contain yourself, and you're going to love it. Save 15% off with code Robert when you check out. Also, if you'd like to use this Mindmap software, it's great software. I often get emails about it. I think I use it for other stuff. It's really useful software in general. But spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap is where you can go to get it. Sign up for a free account right over there. And also, shout out to our mods and our meme smiths who are modding down the fort for us and keeping the show nice and beautiful and orderly. Big thanks go to Vienticus Prime, our friend K Bean, Just Cause in the house, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu's here, Beyond Geostars, Zach Nichols, John Allen, our friend Janek909, Dog Digger, and our friend Donut Mind Me, all in the house. Ultra thank yous go to Sleepy Dog Lee and our friend Geegum Geegum for meme smithing us up, along with Nathan N810, who is over on Locals. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Locals, stick around. Telegram, stick around. We're going to be doing our debrief after party in a minute. But everybody else, I hope you have an amazing weekend, a beautiful couple days to rest and unplug, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, get some exercise in, spend some time with friends and families, unplug from politics. Because it can be heavy, it can be in a lot, and we've got to rejuvenate ourselves and refresh and recharge our batteries so that next week we can come back here to do it all again. With your help, together we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Marco K., Thank you so much for the super chat here on the final exit on the show. Very grateful. You're a new member. Thank you for the support. Looking forward to seeing you as the show continues. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Make it a beautiful weekend. Have yourselves an amazing, restful sleep and a recharging weekend. And we'll see you right back here on Monday. Make it a great one, my friends. Bye-bye.